In the stillness of the late hours aboard orbital base Alpha 12, the silence was broken only by the faint hum of machinery. The station floated quietly in the void, a lone sentinel orbiting Earth, its lights blinking rhythmically like a heartbeat in the darkness. Illyra Quinn, the head engineer, sat slumped at her desk, her fingers idly tracing the edge of a data pad. Her shift had stretched long into the night, but she felt a small sense of accomplishment. The maintenance schedules were finally complete, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to relax. Through the wide, reinforced glass of her office window, the planet hung below like a jewel Earth, bathed in soft blue and white swirls, peaceful and distant. The sight always filled her with a quiet sense of wonder, a reminder of home, though she hadn't set foot there in years. She leaned back in her chair, letting her eyes drift shut, the weight of exhaustion pulling her into a fragile moment of rest. Suddenly, the sharp, piercing wail of the emergency alarm shattered the calm. The sound reverberated through the station, jolting Illyra upright. Her heart raced as the red warning lights began to flash, painting the room in a harsh, pulsing glow. She grabbed her tablet instinctively and rushed out of the office, her boots clanging against the metal floor as she made her way to the command deck. The control room was alive with activity. Screens flickered with data feeds, and voices overlapped as the crew scrambled to respond. Illyra's gaze darted to the central monitor, where a single, ominous blip had appeared on the radar. A ship unregistered and alien was approaching. Status? Illyra demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. It's a Vrixian craft, one of the technicians replied, his tone laced with a mix of awe and unease. They're requesting emergency docking clearance. Illyra's brow furrowed. The Vrixians were a species shrouded in mystery, hailing from a distant star system far beyond the reach of most human vessels. Their ships were renowned for their cutting-edge technology, sleek and self-sufficient. It was unheard of for them to seek assistance from a human station, let alone one as modest as Alpha 12. Why here? She murmured, more to herself than anyone else. The technician shook his head. They claim their warp core is failing. If they don't dock now, their ship won't make it. Illyra hesitated, her mind racing. The Vrixians were not known for their trust in other species. Their technology was light years ahead of anything humanity could comprehend, and the idea of repairing one of their vessels felt both daunting and improbable. Yet, the urgency in the request left no room for refusal. Grant them clearance, she said firmly. Prepare docking bay 3 and alert security. I want a full team on standby. Minutes later, the alien vessel emerged from the darkness, its silhouette a jagged and alien shape against the backdrop of stars. The ship was smaller than Illyra had expected, its hull a deep, iridescent black that seemed to shimmer faintly, as though alive. Scorch marks marred its surface, and a gaping wound on one side revealed the extent of the damage. The docking bay doors groaned open, and the craft descended slowly, its landing gear extending with a hiss of pressurized gas. As it settled onto the platform, the air grew heavy with an unspoken tension. The humans gathered at a safe distance, their eyes fixed on the ship with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. A moment later, the side hatch of the ship slid open, releasing a faint, otherworldly hum. From within, Captain Thrizan stepped forward. He was a towering figure, his insectoid frame gleaming under the harsh lights of the bay. His body was covered in chitinous armor, dark and segmented, with faint patterns that seemed to ripple as he moved. Four long, spindly arms extended from his torso, each ending in sharp, claw-like appendages. His head was dominated by multifaceted eyes, which caught the light and fractured it into a kaleidoscope of colors. Illyra instinctively straightened as the alien approached, her heart pounding in her chest. Despite his imposing appearance, there was an air of dignity in the way he carried himself, his movements deliberate and measured. A small device on his chest emitted a soft beep, and then, in a voice that was deep and strangely melodic, he spoke. "Greetings, humans of Orbital Base Alpha 12, the translator intoned. I am Captain Thrusan of the Vrixian scout vessel Critharix. I thank you for granting us refuge in this time of need." Illyra stepped forward, her voice steady but cautious. "I'm Illyra Quinn, head engineer. What's the nature of your emergency?" Thrusan inclined his head slightly, a gesture that might have been a nod. "Our warp core has sustained critical damage. Without immediate repairs, we will be stranded in the sector, vulnerable to the dangers of deep space." Illyra's eyes flicked to the damaged section of the ship, her mind already racing through possible solutions. "Your technology is far more advanced than anything we have here," she admitted. "I can't guarantee we'll be able to fix it." The alien's mandibles clicked softly, a sound that seemed almost like a sigh. "Human ingenuity is renowned among the travelers of the stars. You approach problems with a perspective unlike any other species. That is why we are here." The weight of his words settled heavily on Illyra's shoulders. She glanced back at her team, who stood waiting, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. Turning back to Thrusan, she squared her shoulders. "We'll do everything we can," she said. The captain's eyes gleamed, and for a brief moment, Illyra thought she saw something in his gaze: relief, or perhaps hope. As the alien returned to his ship, Illyra turned to her crew, her voice firm and resolute. "Let's get to work." And so, the humans of Orbital Base Alpha 12 prepared to face a challenge unlike any they had ever encountered, unaware that this single act of aid would set in motion events that would ripple across the galaxy. The alien warp core loomed before them, suspended in the dimly lit engineering bay. Its surface pulsed faintly with an otherworldly glow, veins of shimmering light coursing through its intricate structure like the lifeblood of a living organism. The core was massive, its design both mesmerizing and unnerving, as if it defied the natural laws of physics. Illyra stood motionless for a moment, her breath caught in her throat. She had seen advanced machinery before, but this was something else entirely alive, in a sense she couldn't quite grasp. Her team gathered around her, their faces pale and uncertain. The air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the faint hum of the core and the occasional hiss of cooling systems. One of the junior engineers, a wiry man named Jace, cleared his throat nervously. What even is this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Illyra didn't answer immediately. Her eyes traced the warped and fractured sections of the core, where the once smooth surface had been torn apart, revealing layers of complex circuitry intertwined with what looked like organic tissue. It was as though the machine had been grown rather than built, its design alien in every sense of the word. "It's damaged," she finally said, her voice steady despite the knot of uncertainty tightening in her chest. "But it's still holding together. For now." Captain Thrusan stood nearby, his towering form casting long, jagged shadows across the room. His multifaceted eyes glimmered faintly as he watched the humans work, his expression unreadable. "This technology," Illyra murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "It's so far beyond us." "But," she hesitated, her brow furrowing as she studied the core more closely. Beneath its alien complexity, she could see faint echoes of familiar principles: energy flow, containment fields, structural supports. The foundation was there, buried under layers of incomprehensible design. "But it's not impossible," she finished, her tone sharper now, more certain. She turned to her team, her gaze firm. "We can work with this." Jace blinked at her, his uncertainty giving way to disbelief. "You're serious?" "Illyra, we don't even know what half of this stuff is. How are we supposed to fix it?" "We don't need to fix it," Illyra replied, her mind racing as the pieces began to fall into place. "Not completely. Look here." She gestured to one of the damaged sections, where the glowing veins of energy flickered weakly. "The core is still functional, but it's struggling to maintain stability. If we reinforce the damaged areas and redirect the energy flow, we can stabilize it without needing to replace anything." Another engineer, Myra, stepped forward, her expression skeptical. "Reinforce it with what? We don't have anything that matches this material." Illyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "We don't need to match it. We just need something strong enough to hold it together. Tritanium mesh should do the trick." Myra frowned. "Tritanium? That's not exactly cutting edge." "No," Illyra admitted. "But it's resilient, and it's flexible enough to adapt to the core's structure. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to work." The team exchanged uncertain glances, but Illyra's confidence was infectious. Slowly, they nodded, their hesitation giving way to determination. For hours, they worked tirelessly, weaving the tritanium mesh over the damaged sections of the core with painstaking precision. The alien material resisted at first, its surface slick and unyielding, but the humans persisted, their hands steady despite the weight of the task. Sweat dripped down their faces, their breaths coming in short, labored gasps, but they didn't stop. Illyra moved among them, her voice calm and encouraging, her hands just as dirty and calloused as theirs. She guided them through the recalibration process, adjusting the energy flow to compensate for the weakened areas. It was a delicate balance, like tuning a fragile instrument, and one wrong move could send the entire system into catastrophic failure. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last connection was secured. The team stepped back, their faces pale and drawn with exhaustion, but their eyes alight with a flicker of hope. "Power it up," Illyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jace hesitated, his hand hovering over the controls. "Are you sure?" Illyra met his gaze, her expression unwavering. "Do it." He pressed the button, and for a moment, nothing happened. The room was deathly silent, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. Then, slowly, the core began to hum. The faint glow that had flickered weakly before now grew brighter, steadier, until the entire structure pulsed with a vibrant, golden light. The energy readings on the nearby monitor spiked, climbing higher and higher until they stabilized at a level far beyond anything the humans had anticipated. 115% efficiency, Myra whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "That's impossible." Illyra allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. "Not impossible. Just unexpected." Captain Thrizan stepped forward, his imposing form casting a shadow over the humans. His multifaceted eyes flicked between Illyra and the now stable core, his mandibles clicking softly. "You have done more than repair my ship," he said, his voice low and resonant. "You have improved it. This level of efficiency is unprecedented, even among my people." Illyra met his gaze, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "We just did what we could with what we had." Thrizan tilted his head, his expression inscrutable. "Your species possesses a creativity and adaptability that is rare among the stars. You see solutions where others see only obstacles. It is a gift." Illyra felt a faint flush of pride, but she quickly pushed it aside. "We were just doing our job." The Vrixian captain inclined his head, a gesture of respect. "And you have done it well. I will ensure that your efforts are known throughout the galactic nexus. Others will hear of what you have accomplished here." As he turned to leave, Illyra watched him go, her mind still reeling from the events of the past few hours. The core hummed softly behind her, a testament to what they had achieved. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that humanity might have a place among the stars, not as conquerors or imitators, but as innovators, capable of shaping the future in ways no one else could. The corridors of orbital base Alpha 12 buzzed with an energy that had never been felt before. Ships from every corner of the galaxy lined the docking bays, each one a testament to the vast diversity of life beyond Earth. The air was charged with a mix of excitement and trepidation as Illyra and her team found themselves at the center of this cosmic convergence. Illyra stood in the main engineering bay, surrounded by a whirl of activity. Her heart raced with a blend of exhilaration and anxiety. Every day brought a new challenge, a new mystery to unravel. The Trellian ship, with its crystalline propulsion system, shimmered like a giant, multifaceted gem, casting rainbows across the walls as it hovered silently. Its engines sang a haunting melody, a symphony of light and sound that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Nearby, the Caliph vessel loomed, its hull a dark, scaled surface that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. The ship exuded a quiet menace, its plasma shields flickering with an eerie, ghostly glow. The Caliphs themselves, with their sleek, reptilian forms and piercing eyes, moved with a fluid grace that was both beautiful and unsettling. Despite the daunting nature of their tasks, Illyra and her team approached each new challenge with determination. Their minds were alight with possibilities, their hands deftly weaving solutions from the threads of the unknown. Yet, as they delved deeper into the heart of each ship, Illyra began to notice a pattern, a secret woven into the very fabric of these alien technologies. The ships were not mere machines, they were living entities, biosynthetic marvels that blurred the line between the mechanical and the organic. Their systems pulsed with a rhythm that was almost biological, their components adapting and responding to stimuli in ways that defied traditional engineering logic. It was as if the ships themselves were sentient, aware of their surroundings and capable of evolving to meet the demands of the cosmos. This revelation struck Illyra with the force of an epiphany. She saw the elegance in the chaos, the beauty in the complexity. The alien systems were not bound by the rigid protocols that governed human technology. They thrived on adaptability, on the ability to change and grow. And it was in this fluidity that Illyra found the key to their repair. Human engineers, she realized, were uniquely suited to this task. Trained to improvise and innovate, they approached problems with a flexibility that other species lacked. Where others saw insurmountable obstacles, humans saw opportunities for creativity and invention. They treated each ship not as a standardized machine, but as a unique entity, deserving of a tailored approach. As this understanding took root, Illyra felt a profound sense of purpose. She and her team were not just repairing ships, they were forging connections across the stars, bridging the gap between species through their ingenuity and compassion. The human repair method, as it came to be known, was more than a technique, it was a philosophy, a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. In the weeks that followed, Alpha 12 became a beacon of hope and innovation. The galaxy took notice, and from every corner of the universe, beings came to witness the miracle of human creativity. Illyra stood at the forefront of this new era, her heart filled with pride and possibility, knowing that they were not just fixing ships, they were shaping the future. The air on orbital base Alpha 12 grew heavier with each passing day, a tension creeping into the once bustling halls like an unseen shadow. Whispers of discontent had begun to ripple across the Galactic Union, carried on the voices of those who viewed humanity's ingenuity not as a gift, but as a threat. Illyra could feel the weight of it pressing down on her shoulders, even as she and her team continued their work. The base, once filled with the hum of alien ships and the hopeful chatter of engineers, now bristled with unease. It began with a formal notice, cold, clinical, and sharp as a blade. The consortium of builders, a coalition of the galaxy's most powerful ship manufacturers, had filed an official complaint against Alpha 12. The message was delivered via a sleek, automated drone, its metallic sheen reflecting the sterile lights of the docking bay. When Illyra opened the holographic communique, the words glowed in the air before her, stark and accusatory. By modifying proprietary systems without authorization, you have violated Galactic Union intellectual property laws. Cease all operations immediately, or face severe penalties. Illyra's chest tightened as she read the words, her heart sinking with the weight of their implications. But she knew, deep down, that this wasn't about legalities. It wasn't about intellectual property or safety protocols. It was about control. The consortium's carefully constructed empire, a galaxy-wide monopoly built on planned obsolescence, was crumbling under the weight of human ingenuity. Alpha 12 wasn't just fixing ships, it was exposing a system designed to exploit. Her team gathered in the central hub, their faces drawn and pale as they pored over the details of the complaint. The holographic display cast a cold, blue light over the room, illuminating the worry etched into every line of their expressions. Jace, always quick to voice his frustrations, slammed his fist against the table. "This is ridiculous," he spat, his voice trembling with anger. "They don't care about safety or laws. They just want to shut us down because we're cutting into their profits." Myra nodded, her jaw tight. "They're afraid of us. Afraid of what we can do. We've proven that their way isn't the only way." Illyra listened in silence, her mind racing. She knew they were right. The consortium's business model thrived on dependency, on ships that were designed to fail in predictable ways so that their owners would be forced to pay for costly repairs. Alpha 12's approach, repairing ships in ways that made them stronger, more efficient, was a direct threat to that system. But knowing the truth didn't make the situation any less dangerous. The consortium wasn't just powerful, it was entrenched. Its influence reached deep into the Galactic Union, its wealth and resources giving it the ability to bend entire star systems to its will. And now, that power was aimed squarely at Alpha 12. As the days passed, the pressure mounted. Representatives from the Galactic Union arrived on the station, their presence a constant reminder of the scrutiny they were under. Clad in pristine uniforms and flanked by armed guards, they moved through the base with an air of quiet authority, their eyes cold and calculating. They spoke in clipped, formal tones, asking pointed questions and taking detailed notes. Every interaction felt like an interrogation, every answer a potential weapon to be used against them. Illyra found herself standing before a panel of Union officials, their faces obscured by the harsh glare of overhead lights. The room was silent save for the quiet hum of the station's systems, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. One of the officials, a tall, gaunt figure with piercing eyes, leaned forward. "Your methods are unorthodox," he said, his voice sharp and precise. "You've modified systems that were never meant to be altered. How can you guarantee the safety of these repairs?" Illyra met his gaze, her own eyes steady and unwavering. "We don't just repair systems," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We improve them." Every modification we make is tested rigorously. We've never had a failure. The official's expression didn't change. That may be true, he said, but the fact remains that you've violated the intellectual property rights of the consortium of builders. Their designs are proprietary. By altering them, you've broken the law. Illyra's hands clenched at her sides, her frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Their designs are flawed by intention, she said, her voice rising despite herself. They build ships to fail so they can profit from the repairs. We're not breaking the law, we're breaking their monopoly. A murmur rippled through the room, the officials exchanging glances. The gaunt man's eyes narrowed. That's a serious accusation, he said. Do you have evidence to support it? Illyra hesitated. She knew the consortium's practices were unethical, but proving it was another matter entirely. Their systems were designed to hide their flaws, their contracts written to protect their interests. The truth was there, buried beneath layers of bureaucracy and technical obfuscation, but uncovering it would take time they didn't have. As the meeting ended, Illyra felt a deep sense of unease. The consortium wasn't just fighting to protect its profits, it was fighting to maintain its control over the galaxy's infrastructure. And Alpha 12, with its human ingenuity and defiance of the status quo, had become a symbol of resistance, a flame that threatened to ignite a revolution. But flames, she knew, could be snuffed out. And as she walked back to the engineering bay, her mind raced with questions. How far would the consortium go to silence them? And how could they fight back against an enemy with so much power? The shadows of resistance were gathering, and Illyra could feel their presence closing in, cold and unrelenting. Yet even in the face of this growing darkness, a spark of determination burned within her. They had come too far, achieved too much, to let fear dictate their future. The fight was just beginning. The weight of the consortium's accusations hung over Alpha 12 like a gathering storm, threatening to snuff out the light of everything they had built. Illyra sat in the dim glow of her quarters, the silence pressing against her as she stared at the holographic map of the galaxy before her. Each point of light represented a ship or a civilization that had come to them for help. Each one was a story, a connection, a life saved. And now, she realized, those connections might be the only thing that could save them. With a deep breath, she began to reach out. Messages were sent across the stars, carried by encrypted relays and trusted couriers. She wrote not with desperation, but with purpose, her words a call to action that resonated with quiet strength. She spoke of what Alpha 12 had accomplished, of the lives they had touched, and of the threat they now faced. She asked for support not in credits or weapons, but in voices. Stories. Truth. The response was more than she could have hoped for. Within days, messages began pouring in. Captains, traders, and explorers from across the galaxy answered her call, each one bringing their own tale of how Alpha 12 had made the impossible possible. A grizzled miner from the asteroid belts of the Corin system recounted how Illyra's team had repaired his failing life support system just hours before it would have collapsed. A young diplomat from the water worlds of Lysera spoke of how a repaired engine had allowed her to deliver vital peace treaties to a war-torn sector. Even the stoic Caliths, with their cold, reptilian demeanor, sent a message of gratitude, their words clipped but sincere. The most unexpected response, however, came in the form of a ship. It appeared in Alpha 12's docking bay one quiet evening, its sleek, organic hull glistening like wet obsidian under the station's lights. As the airlock hissed open, Illyra felt a familiar presence. Captain Thrizan stepped forward, his tall, willowy form radiating a calm, almost otherworldly grace. His silver eyes met hers, and for a moment, the chaos of the past week seemed to fade. "Illyra," he said, his voice smooth and resonant, "I've come to repay a debt." She tilted her head, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "You owe us nothing, Captain. We were only doing what we could." Thrusan's lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps. But you did more than repair my ship. You reminded me and many others that there is strength in the unexpected, and power in those who refuse to follow the paths laid for them." He gestured for her to follow, leading her aboard his ship. The interior was unlike anything she had ever seen, a seamless blend of technology and biology. The walls seemed to breathe, their surface shifting subtly with each step they took. Soft, glowing tendrils of light pulsed along the corridors, casting an ethereal glow that felt alive. It was a ship that didn't just move through space, it existed as part of it. "I have a proposal," Thrusan said as they reached the ship's central chamber. The room was vast and open, its walls lined with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and shimmer like liquid silver. In the center stood a holographic display, showing the Vrixian Prime shipyards, a place spoken of only in whispers, a legend even among the stars. "I want you to come with me to Vrixian Prime," he continued. "Our shipyards are where vessels like mine are born. It is a place of knowledge, of creation. There, you can learn the secrets of our biosynthetic technology. With that knowledge, you'll have the means to defend Alpha 12 not just against the consortium's accusations, but against any who would seek to undermine what you've built." Illyra's breath caught in her throat. The Vrixians were one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, their technology centuries ahead of anything humanity had achieved. To be invited to their shipyards was an honor beyond measure, an opportunity that could change everything. But it was also a risk. The consortium would see it as an act of defiance, a declaration of war. She looked at Thrusan, her mind racing. "Why would you do this for us?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. Thrusan's expression softened, and for a moment, the weight of his years seemed to show. "Because we are not so different, you and I," he said. "My people were once like yours, small, overlooked, underestimated. We survived because we adapted, because we dared to see the universe not as it was, but as it could be. You remind me of that. And I will not stand by and watch that spark be extinguished." Illyra felt a surge of emotion, gratitude, hope, determination all swirling within her. She nodded, her voice firm. "Then I'll go." The journey to Vrixian Prime was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The ship seemed to move through space as if it were water, slipping effortlessly between the stars. The colors outside the viewport shifted and danced, hues she couldn't name painting the void with an otherworldly beauty. It was as if the ship itself was alive, guiding them with a purpose she couldn't quite grasp. When they arrived, the sight took her breath away. The Vrixian Prime shipyards hung in the void like a living constellation, its sprawling structures glowing with soft, bioluminescent light. Vast, organic vessels floated in the dockyards, their forms elegant and alien, each one unique. The air inside the shipyards hummed with energy, a quiet, harmonious vibration that seemed to resonate in her very bones. As Thrusan led her through the shipyards, Illyra realized that this was more than a place of creation, it was a sanctuary, a testament to what could be achieved when technology and nature worked as one. The Vrixians didn't just build ships, they grew them, nurtured them, infused them with life. It was a philosophy, a way of being, that resonated deeply with her own belief in the power of adaptability and creativity. In the days that followed, she immersed herself in their knowledge, her mind expanding with each new discovery. She learned how the Vrixians wove organic matter with advanced machinery, creating vessels that could heal themselves, adapt to their environment, and even communicate with their pilots. She saw how their technology was not just a tool, but a partner, a living extension of the beings who created it. And as she stood in the heart of the shipyards, surrounded by the quiet hum of creation, Illyra felt a renewed sense of purpose. The consortium had underestimated humanity, but they had also underestimated the bonds that connected the stars. With the knowledge she had gained, she knew they could stand against the darkness. They could fight not just for Alpha 12, but for a future where ingenuity and collaboration triumphed over greed and control. The stars, she realized, were full of allies. And together, they would shine brighter than any shadow. The journey to the Vrixian homeworld was like stepping into a dream woven from threads of light and shadow, where the boundaries between the natural and the artificial dissolved into something entirely new. As Illyra approached the planet, her breath caught in her throat. It was unlike any world she had ever seen. The Vrixian homeworld hung in the void like a jewel, its surface shimmering with hues that shifted and danced as though alive. Towering spires spiraled into the atmosphere, their crystalline structures glowing faintly with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Between these spires stretched vast forests, their trees radiating a soft bioluminescence that painted the landscape in shades of blue, green, and gold. Rivers of liquid light snaked through the valleys, their currents sparkling like stardust. The planet seemed to hum with life, a quiet, harmonious vibration that resonated in Illyra's chest as the ship descended. When she stepped onto the surface, the air was cool and fragrant, carrying the faint scent of something floral yet unfamiliar. The ground beneath her feet was soft and warm, almost like living skin, and the spires above seemed to sing a low, melodic hum that blended with the rustle of glowing leaves in the wind. The Vrixians moved gracefully through their world, their tall, willowy forms blending seamlessly with their surroundings. Their silver eyes glimmered with intelligence and curiosity as they regarded Illyra, their movements fluid and deliberate, as if every step was part of some ancient dance. Thrusan led her through the glowing forests, the path illuminated by soft pulses of light that seemed to respond to their presence. Our world, he explained, his voice calm and measured, is not a collection of separate systems. It is one organism, one symphony. Everything here is connected, every tree, every river, every spire. And so are we. Illyra listened in silence, her mind awash with wonder. She could feel it, the connection he spoke of. It was in the air, in the ground, in the very fabric of the world around her. It was alive. Their journey ended at the prime shipyards, a structure so vast and intricate that it seemed to defy comprehension. The shipyards rose from the heart of the glowing forest, their organic spires twisting and branching like the limbs of some great, ancient tree. The walls shimmered with a living sheen, their surfaces shifting and rippling as if breathing. Inside, the air was warm and thick with energy, a quiet hum vibrating through Illyra's bones. This, Thrusan said, gesturing to the massive chamber before them, is where our ships are born. Illyra stepped forward, her eyes widening as she took in the sight. The chamber was filled with enormous, glowing cocoons suspended in the air by strands of light. Within each cocoon, something stirred, shapes shifting and growing, their forms fluid and unformed. The cocoons pulsed softly, their light dimming and brightening in a rhythm that felt almost alive. Around them, Vrixian engineers moved with purpose, their hands weaving strands of glowing material into the cocoons, guiding the growth like gardeners tending to a living garden. Our ships are not built, Thrusan continued, his voice tinged with pride. They are grown. Each one is unique, shaped by the needs of its future pilot and the environment it will inhabit. They are not machines, Illyra. They are living beings. Illyra approached one of the cocoons, her hand hovering just above its surface. It was warm to the touch, its texture soft and pliable, like the skin of some great creature. As she watched, the shape within shifted, its form becoming clearer, a sleek, elegant vessel that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. She could feel its energy, its potential, as though it were reaching out to her. "It's incredible," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "They're alive." Thrusan nodded. "Yes. And that is why standardized repairs are impossible. Each ship is a singular creation, with its own needs, its own personality. To repair one, you must understand it not as a machine, but as a living being." Illyra's mind raced as the pieces fell into place. This was the answer she had been searching for, the confirmation of what she had always believed. Human engineers succeeded where others failed because they treated each ship as an individual. They didn't rely on standardized procedures or one-size-fits-all solutions. They adapted, they listened, they understood. It was a skill born of necessity, of humanity's long history of survival through ingenuity and resourcefulness. As she turned to Thrusan, her eyes shone with newfound determination. "This is why the consortium fears us," she said. "They built their empire on uniformity, on control. But we humans, we thrive in chaos. We see the cracks, the imperfections, and we find a way to make them work. We don't just fix what's broken. We make it better." Thrusan studied her for a moment, his silver eyes thoughtful. Then he smiled a small, knowing smile. "You understand," he said simply. "And that is why we will stand with you." In the days that followed, Illyra immersed herself in the knowledge of the Vryxians, learning their methods, their philosophy, their way of seeing the universe. She watched as ships grew from the cocoons, their forms taking shape in ways that seemed almost magical. She learned how the Vryxians wove strands of organic material with nanotechnology, creating vessels that could heal themselves, adapt to their environment, and even bond with their pilots on a level that transcended the physical. And as she stood in the heart of the shipyards, surrounded by the quiet hum of creation, Illyra felt a deep sense of connection not just to the Vryxians, but to the galaxy itself. The consortium's accusations, their attempts to silence Alpha 12, seemed small and petty in the face of this vast, interconnected web of life and possibility. She knew now that their fight was not just about survival. It was about something much greater. When the time came to leave, the Vryxians gathered to see her off. Thrusan placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression solemn. "You carry more than knowledge now," he said. "You carry the heart of the machine. Use it well." As Illyra boarded her ship, she looked back at the glowing spires of the Vryxian homeworld, their light casting long shadows across the forest below. She felt a quiet resolve settle over her, a certainty that no matter what lay ahead, they would not face it alone. The Vryxians had given her more than their support. They had given her hope. And as the ship rose into the stars, Illyra knew that the heart of the machine was not just in the ships they repaired or the technology they used. It was in the connections they forged, the lives they touched, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, there was always a way forward. Unity Station loomed in the void like a colossal monument, its structure a labyrinth of gleaming towers and spiraling bridges that seemed to defy gravity. It was the political heart of the Galactic Union, a place where decisions that shaped the fate of entire civilizations were made. Yet, as Illyra stepped into the grand chamber where the hearings would take place, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into the lion's den. The room was vast and circular, its walls lined with representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Their faces were a mosaic of species, some with glowing eyes, others with shimmering scales, or tendrils that twitched with emotion. Above them, a dome of transparent crystal revealed the stars beyond, a silent reminder of the enormity of the galaxy they served. At the center of it all sat the tribunal, their robed figures shrouded in shadow, their presence both imposing and impartial. The consortium's representative was the first to speak. He was a tall, sharp-featured man with a voice that cut through the air like a blade. His words dripped with confidence as he presented charts and statistics, his arguments polished to perfection. Human repair methods, he declared, his tone cold and clinical, are reckless and unpredictable. They deviate from established protocols, creating instability in systems that require precision. This unpredictability is a danger to galactic safety. Illyro listened in silence, her heart pounding as the consortium's accusations filled the chamber. They painted humanity as chaotic, untrustworthy, a threat to the carefully maintained order of the galaxy. And for a moment, she felt the weight of their words pressing down on her, a heavy shadow threatening to extinguish the spark of hope she carried. But then she stood, her gaze steady, her voice clear. The consortium speaks of unpredictability as if it were a flaw, she began, her words cutting through the tension like a beam of light. But unpredictability is not chaos, it is adaptability. It is the ability to see beyond the confines of a manual, to respond to the needs of a ship not as a machine, but as a living, breathing entity. She gestured to the evidence she had brought, holograms flickering to life around her. They showed the Vrixian biosynthetic ships, their elegant, organic forms shifting and pulsing with life. These ships, she continued, cannot be repaired with standard protocols. Each one is unique, a creation that requires understanding and adaptation. Human engineers succeed where others fail because we treat each ship as an individual. We listen. We learn. We adapt. Her words were met with murmurs of skepticism, but also curiosity. She could see the doubt in some eyes, the questions forming in others. And then she delivered the final blow. The consortium claims to prioritize safety, she said, her voice rising with quiet intensity, but their ships are designed for obsolescence. They force captains to rely on factory maintenance, to replace parts rather than repair them. It's not about safety, it's about control. About profit. The murmurs grew louder, a ripple of unease spreading through the chamber. And then, at the perfect moment, Captain Thrizan rose to speak. The Vrixian captain's presence was commanding, his silver eyes glowing softly as he addressed the tribunal. I am Captain Thrizan of the Vrixian fleet, he began, his voice calm and resonant. My ship is one of the most advanced in the galaxy, a biosynthetic vessel that no standard protocol could repair. When it was damaged beyond our ability to fix, it was the humans who saved it. Not only did they restore it, they improved it. His words hung in the air, heavy with truth. The Vrixians were one of the most respected species in the galaxy, their technology and wisdom revered by all. For Thrizan to speak in support of Alpha 12 was a blow the consortium could not recover from. The chamber fell silent as the tribunal deliberated, the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone present. And then, at last, the ruling was announced. The decision was a turning point, not just for Alpha 12, but for the galaxy itself. The tribunal ruled in favor of Alpha 12, declaring that ship owners had the right to choose their repair providers. No longer would the consortium hold a monopoly on knowledge and maintenance. They were ordered to share their technical data on biosynthetic systems with certified repair stations, breaking the chains of secrecy that had bound the galaxy for so long. For Alpha 12, it was a transformation. The small repair station that had once struggled to survive became the Galactic Engineering Nexus, a hub of interspecies collaboration and innovation. Engineers from across the galaxy flocked to its halls, eager to learn the human repair method. They brought with them their own expertise, their own unique perspectives, and together, they created something greater than the sum of its parts. The Nexus became a place of unity, a beacon of hope in a galaxy often divided by politics and greed. Its halls were filled with voices of every kind, gravelly, melodic, clicking, and humming, all working together to solve problems, to push the boundaries of what was possible. The air buzzed with creativity and purpose, a living testament to what could be achieved when differences were embraced rather than feared. Illyra, now the director of the Nexus, often walked its corridors, her heart swelling with pride and wonder. She saw humans and aliens working side by side, their hands and minds shaping a future that once seemed impossible. She saw ships being repaired and improved, their unique needs met with ingenuity and care. And she saw the spark of hope that had carried them through the darkest times now burning brightly in the hearts of everyone who came to the Nexus. One evening, as she stood on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars, she allowed herself a moment to reflect. What had begun as a small, struggling repair station had become a symbol of unity and progress. They had faced greed, fear, and doubt, and they had prevailed not through force, but through cooperation, creativity, and an unshakable belief in the power of connection. As the stars glittered above, Illyra felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. The galaxy was still vast and full of challenges, but now, it also felt full of possibility. The Nexus was more than a place of repair, it was a place of rebirth, of hope, of endless potential. And in that moment, she knew that no matter what lay ahead, they had proven one thing beyond a shadow of a doubt: even in the darkest of times, ingenuity and unity could light the way forward.